Hey everyone, Speedy Temple from Speedy Temple Racing, and I'm here with a bit of a review of the, I guess you could say, regular season of Formula 1 and NASCAR for 2020, and I'm going to touch a bit on IndyCar too. So with that out of the way, let's just get into it. So first we'll start off with the move that started everything this year. I already touched on the initial domino in this effect of Sebastian Vettel leaving Formula 1, not yet at least, leaving Ferrari starting the end of the season. Like I said, that started the domino effect, which led to Carlos Sainz replacing him at Ferrari, and then Daniel Ricciardo, replacing Sainz at McLaren for next year. And initially, I was a bit shocked when I heard about Carlos Sainz being the one to replace Vettel at Ferrari. I thought it was going to be Ricciardo, hands down, but yeah, Ferrari really shocked me on that one. But judging Carlos Sainz on how he's been in the last couple seasons, I'm not too surprised. I mean, Carlos had a very much of a breakout season in 2018, not only finishing 5th in the drivers' point standings, but also getting his first career podium too at Brazil, despite it being a result of a penalty for Lewis Hamilton, but he still got it on merit. He didn't get it on the track, but he got it on merit. And then that led to Daniel Ricciardo coming to McLaren, which, I mean, after he decided to leave Red Bull in 2018, McLaren was one of the teams he was talking to, along with Renault. And going off of how McLaren performed in 2019, I'm not too surprised about his decision to leave Renault for McLaren, because, I mean, Renault, they pretty much promised him the world when they signed for them, and they haven't really delivered. I mean, his best result at Renault was a very good performance at Monza last year, finishing P4, along with his teammate Nico Hülkenberg finishing P5 behind him. So yeah, I can see why he would leave Renault for McLaren. Although Renault has shown up a bit this season. They finished 4th and 5th again in Spa, and I was hoping they could replicate that, or at least improve on it for this weekend in Monza. And qualifying hasn't really shown that to be the case, but hopefully the race goes better. So with Vettel leaving Ferrari, Sainz going to Ferrari to replace Vettel, and Ricciardo going to McLaren to replace Sainz, that left a spot open at Renault, and a lot of people were thinking that Vettel would take that spot, but we got someone coming out of the woodwork, completely out of nowhere, to fill that spot, and that was Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso is back after leaving in 2018. He's back, and he's going to be racing for Renault once again. This is going to be his 3rd stint with the French racing team, although they're going to have a new name next year, but I'll get to that later. He's going to be racing for Renault in 2021, partnering Esteban Ocon. And it looks like it's going to be at least a 2-year deal, because it says here that he's going to be helping the Anglo-French team for the radical new rules change in 2022. And it's going to be interesting to see how he comes back after being out for 2 full years. I mean, he was still racing during that time. He was racing in the WEC and did a couple, well, he tried to do the Indy 500 last year. Didn't make it, but he made it to this year's one, but that's another story we're going to touch on a little bit later. I'm pretty much everyone thought that Fernando was done with Formula 1 until, a spot opened up in a top team like your Mercedes, Red Bulls, Ferrari. Maybe not Ferrari now, but yeah, Mercedes, Red Bull. Maybe he was looking at a spot for one of those teams, but yeah, we all know those seats weren't going to open up, at least not for him. Coming back to Renault, which is a decent midfield team, it's not too terrible. I mean, will he be fighting for podiums next year? Maybe. I mean, like I said earlier, Daniel Ricciardo, he got 4th at Spa this year, and if they can basically finished best of the rest at Spa this year. They probably could do it next year too. At Silverstone this year, we had a doubleheader, and unfortunately, during those 2 weekends, Sergio Perez, he came down with the dreaded virus, which has been the catalyst for all this change this season, not just in Formula 1, but in the whole world, basically. And with that ailment, he wasn't able to compete in the Silverstone doubleheader weekends. So, Racing Point had to find a replacement for him real quick. And who was that replacement? If you were watching, you already know. It was Nico Hülkenberg, who, if you remember, at the end of 2019 was out of a seat at Renault and was replaced by Esteban Ocon to partner Daniel Ricciardo this year. Personally, I have a soft spot in my heart for Nico Hülkenberg because when I first started getting back into Formula 1 and the video games, my first game was F1 2017, solid game by the way, and when I did the career mode, I decided to start with Renault, and at this point in the season, Julian Palmer was out of Renault, so I decided to replace him and partner Nico Hülkenberg, and I decided that he was probably one of my favorite drivers because of that, just because I was partnering with him. I have a weird fanaticism when it comes to video games and who I want to team with. So Nico Hülkenberg behind Daniel Ricciardo is probably my favorite driver in Formula 1. And to see him out of a drive at the end of 2019 was a big gutting for me. But to see him back, if only for 2 weekends, it was cool to see him in the pink and white of Racing Point. Unfortunately, he only got to do one race because the first race of the Silverstone doubleheader, the car wouldn't start for whatever reason, so he just had to sit out that race. But he did decently well for someone coming back from half a year at least of no racing. But then the second weekend happened and he showed out, man. He qualified P3 behind both Mercedes. Unfortunately, the race didn't get him that same position finishing wise, otherwise it would have been his first podium. But he did a solid job. He finished P7, got 6 points for Racing Point in Checo's absence. So I think he did a pretty good job in showing that he still has it, and he can substitute for any team if they call upon him. Alexander Albon's lack of performance compared to Max Verstappen. Now, you know, both of those drivers are racing for Red Bull Racing. Red Bull has basically been Max's team ever since, well, even before Daniel Ricciardo left in 2018, it's been Max's team. Because all of 2018 was basically Max dominating. Despite Daniel finishing or winning 2 races that season. Yeah, Max, he's signed on for Red Bull until, I believe, 2023, I think. Yeah, Red Bull are definitely looking towards a future with Max for the long term. Alex's performance, it's been getting compared to Pierre Gasly's performance in the first half of 2019, which is a bit of a unfair comparison. Pierre had to deal with not just Max and the Mercedes, but the Ferraris too, finishing in the top 5 like regularly. I mean, Albon's only had to deal with Mercedes and Max, but he's also been scrapping along with the top guys in the midfield. You know, your Renaults, Racing Points, McLarens. I think he's had a bit more competition than Pierre, but I'd say that Albon has been holding his own. I mean, granted, he does have less than half of Max's points in the driver standings now, but he's still in 4th, which is, for all intents and purposes, the best of the rest position. I'm sure Alex will get his podium sometime this season. I'm not sure where. It depends on where Red Bull are going to be good after Monza. That's another kettle of fish we have to go through later. But I don't think Albon's going to be dropped by Red Bull. At least not this season. Maybe after next season, if he continues to perform like this comparatively to Max, which might just be the case because the regulations aren't going to change from here until 2022 happens. And with Renault kind of showing out on the power circuits and Fernando Alonso coming back next year, who knows where Albon's going to be. But I think he's doing a solid job as Max's teammate. Moving on to Renault, and I alluded to this earlier. Renault are going to be renaming themselves next season to Alpine F1. Now, this one came out of nowhere to me. This was actually, it just broke like in the past 24 hours. So I'm looking at this article here on racefans.net. Renault is expected to announce plans to rebrand its Formula One team for the 2021 season. It will take on the name of Renault's performance car division Alpine, which was founded in 1955 and resumed production of road cars in 2017, following a 22-year hiatus. Now, if you look at this image of the Alpine car in the WEC series, it's blue and white, which it's a different blue from what they drove back during the early to mid 2000s when they had, you know, it wasn't West, it was another cigarette brand. Yeah, they had that iconic blue and yellow that Fernando won his 2 championships with. It's a different shade of blue, and also have some black and white, as you can see. I'm curious to see how they're going to paint the cars next season. If it's going to be anything like this, or if they're just going to keep it to yellow and black. I mean, it would be cool to see them change it, but we have a few blue cars on the grid already with, well, Alpha Tauri is more of a darker blue, almost black, so it's not going to really clash, really. But it'll be interesting to see, to say the least. And it'll be cool to see Fernando Alonso back at Renault, technically, with, you know, blue as their primary color, if it is the case. Now we go to the Mercedes dominance of 2020 so far. Yeah, they're basically running away with the Constructors Championship, and Lewis is basically running away with the Drivers' Championship. The only thing I can see being a bit of a hindrance to that dominance is the fact that after Monza, we're going to some, I'm not going to say untouched territory, because there are some old tracks that we've gone to in Formula One before, but they haven't gone to some of these tracks. Well, they haven't gone to any of these tracks since the turbo hybrid era started in 2014. Although Lewis has some experience on these tracks before in previous iterations of Formula One, and some of these drivers have driven on some of these tracks in junior Formula cars, so there is some experience there, but none in these F1 monsters that they have now. But going back to Mercedes dominance, it's kind of led to the rules change that is going to affect starting this weekend, where the party modes are not going to be allowed in qualifying or the race. And looking at qualifying, it hasn't made a difference, so I don't think it's going to change the dominance anytime soon. But what will change, or what might change the dominance, is the fact that the schedule's changed dramatically from what we initially were seeing. I mean, of course, the original 2020 F1 calendar was completely nixed due to the ongoing global crisis that's happening. But F1 was able to put together a substantial calendar to replace it. And from the start, CEO Chase Carey was saying that he wanted to have, and Russ Braun, I think, were saying they wanted to have 15 to 18 races. And it looks like they've gotten that 15 to 18 race range, because looking here, you can see the first 8 races, despite there being some double headers, is basically the same tracks we've been going to for years. You got the Red Bull Ring in Austria, the Hungar Ring in Hungary, Silverstone in Great Britain, Catalonia, Spa, Monza. But after Monza, we see some old names and some new names. I mean, Sochi's in the middle there, so but we have Mugello, which is Ferrari's basically their test track that they have in Tuscany. And then after Sochi, we go to the Nürburgring, which is a track that hasn't been raced on in Formula One for years. We got Portimao in Portugal. We have Imola, another old track that we haven't raced on in years. And probably one of the biggest ones to come back this year is the Istanbul circuit in Turkey. I've been watching Formula One regularly since 2018 because I've had the means to do it. But I have seen some clips of races that have gone on at Nürburgring, Imola, and Istanbul, and I'm pretty excited to see how these current F1 cars can handle these tracks. And it also throws a bit of a spanner in the works for a lot of these cars, because, well, all these cars, because they've never even touched these tracks before, at least not in a racing sense. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if these tracks do stop a bit of the Mercedes dominance we've been seeing, because the only race that Mercedes haven't won was the 70th anniversary race at Silverstone, which was won by Max Verstappen. So if any of these tracks can produce a banger of a race like that one was, then we're in for some entertainment. I don't think Sochi is going to provide any entertainment, though. And speaking of a different schedule than what we were anticipating, switching to the NASCAR now. Here we have what the schedule is now for NASCAR. Let me see, after the race in Phoenix, there was a 2-month gap between there and Darlington. That's where the schedule kind of got flipped, turned upside around. And now we see the original schedule. You see after Phoenix, we're supposed to go to Atlanta, Homestead, Texas, Bristol. The initial schedule that was put out at the end of last year did get some criticism, mostly because of this doubleheader in Pocono, but I mean, we still got it this year anyway. And with that change in schedule, we got the first running of a NASCAR race on the Daytona Roval, which was a couple weeks ago, actually. And it produced a pretty decent race from what I saw. I didn't get to see the whole thing because I had to work that Sunday. But yeah, Chase Elliott won it. It'll be interesting to see if they go back to this Roval later. I highly doubt it, but it'll be interesting if they do. And from there, we go to the playoffs for NASCAR, which was set after last week's race at Daytona, which was won by William Byron to get his first career NASCAR Cup Series win. So that put him into the playoffs solidly. So now the playoff field looks like Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, William Byron, Austin Dillon, Cole Custer, Eric Almirola, Clint Bowyer, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, and Matt DiBenedetto. And if you're a regular NASCAR watcher like me, you'll probably notice that one name that's been a regular in the playoffs is not on there. And yeah, due to how he finished last week at Daytona, the 7-time champ Jimmy Johnson is not going to have a chance at an 8th title this year. He crashed out late at the Daytona race, and yeah, that basically took him out of contention for a championship this year, which is sad to see because, I mean, he was another driver that got the dreaded virus and was forced to miss a race this season. And that one race could have landed him in the playoffs. It's fortunate that it had to happen, but yeah, Jimmy Johnson's not gonna win an 8th championship this year. And it looks like with his retirement, he is not going to have another chance at it again. So he, along with Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr., are going to be tied for the most NASCAR Cup Series championships for the foreseeable future. And with that, we have our playoff grid for the NASCAR Cup Series Championship. And my predictions, well, for one, I'd predict that either Harvick or Hamlin are going to win the championship. I mean, that pains me as a Chase Elliott fan, but I mean, Harvick and Hamlin have just been dominant this season. There's no doubt about it. And I cannot see neither one of them winning it unless something catastrophic happens to either one of them. That's the only way I can see that happening. They have a more than 27-point advantage over Chase Elliott, who's the 5th seed. That's basically 27 points at least to the good when it comes to getting to the Final Four. I'd say it's going to be Hamlin who wins the championship this year, gets his first one. I mean, Hamlin, he's come close so many times. He's got to be really hungry for that championship. And Harvick, he's won it before, so he's not as hungry for it. But I feel like Hamlin, he's going to do whatever it takes to get that championship. I feel like the Final Four is going to be Kevin Harvick, Hamlin, Elliott, and Keselowski. And with that, we go to IndyCar, which I'm going to be honest, I'm not too versed on IndyCar. I'm not like David Land here, but I have been watching some of the races. They've been pretty entertaining. And well, we can start off with Takuma Sato winning the Indy 500 at Indianapolis this year. That was a great race up until the end. Yeah, unfortunately, he had to end on a caution, because I feel like we're going to have a good battle between him and Scott Dixon for the win. But then I forgot who it was that spun and brought that caution out. But yeah, the caution came out with like 5 laps to go, and he spun right into those tire barriers at the end of the pit wall at the entrance of pit lane, which was going to take at least an hour to clean up. So if they're going to red flag it, they were just going to lose viewers. And judging from what I've seen from David Land's video about the ratings were already pretty low as it was, so that would have just killed all the ratings. So I'd say Takuma Sato deserved that win, despite it finishing on a caution. But with Scott Dixon finishing second and having 4 wins on the season at this point, and only three races left in the season, it's looking pretty clear cut that Scott Dixon's going to win his 6th championship in IndyCar this year. I mean, Joseph Newgarden has a mathematical chance, I believe, but he's down almost 100 points. So, and I'm pretty sure the max points you can get in a single race in IndyCar is 50. I might be wrong on that, but yeah, it's looking pretty clear cut that Scott Dixon's going to get his 6th championship, which will put him 1 away from the all-time drivers' championship record, which is set by AJ Foyt with 7 for the top series in open wheel racing in the United States. And with that covers what's basically been the regular season of F1 and NASCAR, and what's basically been the whole season of IndyCar. So I hope you enjoyed this review with me. Be on the lookout for some more videos like this in the future. Be on the lookout for more racing game videos. I've been doing my team with F1 2020. I just got Tony Stewart's All-American Racing on my PC. I'm looking to start a series with that too. It looks like a fun game. A lot better than NASCAR Heat 5. And yeah, be on the lookout for more videos from me on this channel. So with that, I've been Speedy Tempo from Speedy Tempo Racing, and I'll see you guys on the track.